Hello, this is Rodrigo from Frame Freak Studio, and today I have two special invited guests here from Tinman Studios. They are working in an amazing animation project that is called Super Science Friend. Welcome, Brett Jubinville and LAUREL. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks.
So first of all, I would like to ask you about the history, how Tinman Studios started, and how did you get into all this?
Sure. Yeah, we launched, I think, about 5 years ago, and really my partner Morgan and I had worked together previously at a couple studios, and decided to team up and start our own studio. We didn't really have any prospects or clients at the time, so it was definitely we started with just the two of us in a two-person office, and started doing some commercials and some little projects wherever we could. And yeah, now we're a little bit bigger. We've got about 20 people working with us now, and we're starting to kickstart the next episodes of our show, Super Science Friends.
Awesome. And how did you get the idea of Super Science Friends? Like, you got me right as soon as I saw the GIF of Tesla fighting Edison, because I'm a big fan of Tesla. I also love science, and I read a lot about it in my free time. And I'm really into animation as well. So that was for me like the three things I love the most put into one GIF, and it's like, oh, I got to see this. So how did you get that idea?
Well, I came up with the idea. There's a conference that's actually in Miami right now. It was in New York at the time, but it's now being held in Miami, called Kidscreen. And my partner Morgan was gone for the weekend, so she was down at Kidscreen, and I was left to my own devices at home. And it was really like a combination of playing a lot of video games and eating a lot of crappy food and staying up way too late. And I was just kind of drawing one night, and I drew this character that's in the first episode called the Soviet Space Ghoul. He's just like a zombie astronaut. And then I went to bed, and I couldn't really stop thinking about that drawing. And so I got back up, and I just fleshed out what kind of world that character could exist in. And that's pretty much, short of a few additions to the cast, what the show is about now.
Awesome. And are you trying to like impulse some interest in science through this show, or this is just like something that you wanted to do?
I think it's definitely not like what I would call educational, but I think if someone like sees these characters and sees how weird they are and wants to go off and research on their own, I think that's great. Because like when LAUREL and I and another one of our team, Kevin, were doing our research, like the characters are so weird on their own that they don't really need much help.
It's like using the information for the characters rather than to inspire people to look it up themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like they're really bizarre.
Especially Tesla.
Yeah, especially Tesla, your hero who you're such a fan of. He's the weirdest out of the bunch. Like just like batshit. Well, oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear. Yeah, he's.
No, don't worry.
Yeah, he's an oddball.
Yeah, like I have a friend of mine who was the one who shared with me your show, and he says like his favorite power is the one of Sigmund Freud.
Yeah,
so I wanted to ask you as well, like, why did you wanted to fund it through Kickstarter? What took you to the decision to take it there?
Well, it ties into when I came up with the idea. So I stayed up all night putting the pitch together for the show, and then I sent it to Morgan while she was at Kidscreen, and I said, the shows that we went down there with, like, forget those. This is it. This is the show. And so she was going into some meetings with kind of places like Cartoon Network or, just other kind of larger broadcasters. And we had gone down there, or I'd sent her down there with like show ideas that were more kid friendly, and you probably could have sold them. Like you probably could have gotten them picked up as shows, but I said, no, throw those out. Super Science Friends is where it's at. And with like zero warning. So I think it was a Cartoon Network pitch that she was in. and she went in and pitched them the show, and it just went terribly. Like they just they said no right away, which, you know, and now that I look back on it, of course they did, because it's got Nazis, it's got, you know, blood and guts, it's got Freud doing a line of coke off his arm. So it's not surprising that they would have said no, but we just kind of figured it, you know, we weren't going to be able to sell this the normal way. Like we weren't going to be able to pitch it to a network and have them greenlight it. So we figured we'd try and find an audience through Kickstarter.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely thought that this was something that I could see in Adult Swim or something like that, but not in the regular schedule. So let me check. So what challenges have you gotten until now, like into doing this project for yourselves?
I think the biggest challenge is just that it's really the first show we've done ourselves that we've been like the writers on. Like I've worked on a lot of shows prior to starting Tin Man. Laurel's worked on some shows at some other studios. Morghan has a long history of production. But really this was the first show where we were actually sitting down and being the writers and the kind of creative force. And so that was interesting, just seeing like how difficult that actually is and how time consuming and how many iterations of the animatic. Laurel was our storyboard artist, so she had to board the episode like 3 times before we got it right.
There was a few like gigantic overhauls with this script. It was just like, you know, that whole second half we did, forget that one. We're doing a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the biggest thing. With the first time we looked at the entire episode in its entirety, it was like 25 minutes long, and it was just slow and boring. And so Laurel, myself, and Kevin sat together in a room for a day and just like went in, chopped it down to, you know, about 15 minutes and rewrote a bunch of it.
Awesome. Well, right now we're trying to do like a series by yourself and put it into Kickstarter, like, I don't know, 6-7 months from now. I would like to ask you, like, if there's some warning, something that you could advise to think before getting into the campaign itself.
Yeah, the Kickstarter is a whole other animal. It's what we found is, and we're still not what I would say like really good at it. So I don't know if people want to take our advice necessarily, but it's been fun, and it's been great from a lot of perspectives, especially like just building a fan base. Like until we got into it, we had no idea if anyone was even going to like the idea. Like we liked the idea, so we figured there might be other people out there, but we didn't know who would and where they are in the world, and just how global that reach was going to be. So that was really nice, is to see that, yes, there are like little pockets of fans all over the place. But as far as like just doing a Kickstarter and doing it the proper way, I don't know.
We could probably use some advice.
Yeah. If you happen to find someone who has an answer to that, that would be great. We're trying a bunch of different things right now and just seeing what works. And like as a good example, right now with our current campaign, we've been on Facebook, and we've been on Twitter, and we've been on YouTube, and
Instagram.
Yeah, we've been trying like all the social networking things. And really for us, it's like we can find things like Twitter really doesn't do much for us, whereas Facebook does do a lot for us. We've done like some like TV interviews in the first one that were really great, and they got us some publicity, but it didn't really move the needle at all. So yeah, no, I don't know. I'm hoping to have a firm answer by the end of this campaign of like, yeah, this is what you have to do, and that'll be a successful Kickstarter. But I suspect it'll still be a mystery.
Awesome. So there are other options as well, like Indiegogo. There are many other things. So what did you choose Kickstarter over all the other options?
The first time we tried it, because it had just come to Canada, so it was kind of new and shiny and new in Canada anyway, and it just seemed like the standard. So I rather than doing an Indiegogo, I wanted to do something where if we say, hey, we're funding this, people will assume Kickstarter first. And then this time around, actually, because we're trying to do 3 episodes, Indiegogo might have been a better option, because with them, you kind of keep the money you raise rather than it's all or nothing. So even if say our Kickstarter right now doesn't succeed, maybe on an Indiegogo we would have funded 1 or 2 episodes instead of all 3, and that would have been fine. But at this point, it's kind of do or die for us. We got to do all 3 or none at all.
Awesome. Also, I wanted to ask you about the technical aspects of the animation. How do you do it? Like, what programs do you use, or what techniques do you use to make it?
I will leave this question to Laurel.
It's pretty much Flash all the way through, like even from the board stage all the way.
Seriously?
Mostly Flash, except for the obviously compositing bits were in After Effects and Premiere Pro for all the finishing touches and fun stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty much frame by frame though. So it's, if we were using Toon Boom or TV Paint or anything, it'd be a similar pipeline.
Yeah.
Because it's mostly a traditionally done show.
Yeah. Which Flash is good for because it's simple and you can kind of do that traditional stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, right now we are using Anime Studio to do ours. Because of the technique, it allows us to do a lot with much less effort. But definitely I saw the details and I thought, no, like, this is not Anime Studio at all. But I'm impressed that it was in Flash. Like, it looks really nice.
Thanks. I've heard a lot of good things about Anime Studio actually, and I have yet to use it. A friend of mine uses it for comics and loves it. But I should give it a look.
The harder part, I think, is to do the bones. Like, for example, if you have a lot of hair, pretty much every piece of the hair will need to have some bones of it. So trying to do the rigging will be the harder part. Once it's done, then it's really easy to use.
Cool.
Awesome. So what are your plans right now? Like, there is still like 20 days, right, to get to the date. So how are you planning to promote it? Like, do you have some budget for ads, or are you planning to go into Reddit or something like that?
We've tried out a couple of ads on Facebook because Facebook makes it pretty easy. You can just kind of boost your post. So that's been interesting, is just seeing, like, when I put in, say, certain countries or certain, like, if I do an ad targeted towards men versus women, what the differences are, and seeing that sort of thing. But we have some plans for the second half of the Kickstarter that are a little bit more put together than the first half. With the first half, we really wanted to try like one thing at a time and see if something worked. And now that we're almost halfway through, we've got a bunch of content that we're going to start putting through on a regular basis that should be fun. One of them is a recut of the first episode with little pop-up facts all the way through, like a pop-up video. So it shows all the little hidden gems in the background and all the hidden references to stuff all the way through. I'm like 4 minutes into it right now, and there's just like tons of stuff. So people will have to pause all the way through to read it all if they want to do that. Yeah. But yeah. And Laurel's animating some content for us, and some GIFs and some more
cute little fun stuff.
Yeah. Because those seem to be going over really well. We just posted one with Freud versus Jung, and it already got like 300 shares in like the first 10 minutes. It was great.
Nice. So how much time did you take to get the first episode done? Like, for me, for us, at least 15 minutes is a lot of time. Like, we are having a lot of problems doing a 4-minute animation at the moment. So how much time did you took to get there?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. So we had done some work before the first Kickstarter launched. Like, we had prepped the character designs for most of the characters and some walk cycles and stuff like that. So when we actually got down to it, I think we animated it from like February to September. So that's like 8 months.
That was for animation though. There was still like some prior board stuff as well.
Yeah, so like right from the very beginning, it was probably a full year, I'd say. And that doesn't include like the year prior of just us tinkering with the ideas. So the next episodes we're going to be able to do a little bit faster because we've got
we know who everybody is.
Yeah, we know how to actually animate these things. We know how to like draw their hands, which is something we didn't know how to do. But yeah, 4 minutes can be forever. 15 minutes is definitely a long time. So I feel your pain.
Also, I wanted to ask you, what did you decide in these characters? Because obviously, in the world of science, like there is tons of people that you could have chosen. So, why did you choose these five?
It came down to have they been dead long enough? Because likeness rights come into play. So if we wanted to use like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's still alive, which I would love to do, Neil, if you're watching, call me. I need to get his permission, right? I need to figure out how to get in touch with him and get his permission. He has to like the show and everything like that. And even if like it's someone who has passed away but hasn't died long enough ago, like has died within the last 50 years, I'd have to get permission from family and things like that. So really we had we knew like it had to be pre like 1960 and is when they died. So they would have had to be doing their work like early 1900s or earlier. And that really narrowed it down there. So we knew who were the kind of the rock star scientists back then. Obviously Tesla, obviously Einstein. Freud was my pick to put in, and if you read the Facebook feeds on the Super Science Friends page, there's like a flame war going on right now about people who hate Freud.
He's not a scientist.
Marie Curie got added during the first Kickstarter because a lot of people were pretty pissed off that we only had one female character in the roster, and her power was the ability to seduce men, which is Taputi, and and rightly so, they didn't like that. So we added Marie Curie, which has been great. She's like our favorite character now. Yeah.
And the idea, well, no, I think that came pretty naturally, or I'm not sure, but what was it? How did you get the idea of putting them against like their counterparts, like Tesla versus Edison, Freud versus Carl Jung, and all that?
You said it. It's natural. Like when you read up on these guys, they all had rivals, and it's like their little rivalries and fights were so, in some cases, really adolescent and entertaining that we didn't have to do much. There's one that's really good for Einstein that we haven't really approached yet, but I guess he had a rival who became a member of the Nazi Party. I think his name was Philip something. A book just came out about him. I have it on my phone. I can find it. But I don't think Einstein knew he existed. So this guy had like a one-sided rivalry with him where it was his life goal to like destroy Albert Einstein, and Einstein didn't even really know that he existed. Pretty tragic.
Definitely. But it's amazing that what you have done, with the time you had and at the same time with the limitations, I'm really rooting for this show. Let me see. Yes?
I just said thank you.
Okay, so what are the most difficult parts of doing this animation that you have found? Like, what was the hardest difficulties that you have found into this path?
Hands.
Hands, line weight, getting the line weight right is always a struggle, because the closer the character is to camera, if they still have their like thick line, it looks weird, so you have to thin it out. What else do people struggle with?
A few continuity things, just because the script was kind of hacked apart a little bit, so making sure those things smoothed back over and nothing's like jumping from here to there.
Yeah, I did try and design the characters so that certain things were easy, like you can flop most of them. So it's not like
making them symmetrical. Yeah,
a lot of them don't have like eye patches or anything like that. So it's that's a big thing, because eventually if you have something where, like, we ran into it with Churchill, where he has a little pocket, he has like a little handkerchief in his pocket, and it's on his left side, and inevitably you just see that thing popping left and right, left and right, left and right, and we have to go in and fix it all. So we tried to make things easy on ourselves.
That's a good tip that we are going to have to consider after our experience with this animation. Also, I was seeing like the portfolio that you have in Tinman Studios. It's huge. I would like to ask you, like, what recommendation would you give to other people starting animation studios uh, to st- to start with the right foot, to not commit too many mistakes at the beginning?
Well, when we started, the portfolio was mostly me. Like, we have a lot of really great designers working with us now, and so I don't design a ton of stuff anymore. Like, I design Super Science Friends and some of our other kids shows, but for the most part, we have people that are way better at that stuff than I am. But when we first started, I designed everything, and I like to switch up my style often. So when we were first starting, we didn't have any clients, like I said, so we didn't really have anything for our demo reel. So I just did a series of like 3-second clips in a completely different style, one to the next. And it made it look like we had this huge portfolio and this huge, you know, backlog of projects that we had done, when really we hadn't. We had just done a bunch of like little 3 or 5 second clips.
Nice. That's a good advice for people who are starting out, like to take on their own. And actually, in the interview with Fred Sieber, he told me that there was a point where he had to do like 1,000 of mini animations, like 1 minute each other, in 1 year. So, and at the end, like, everybody considered him like a big guy in animation because he did that. But it was like a big challenge as well to do like an interesting animation in a really short time.
Yeah.
What would be your input into doing something interesting when it comes to animation?
There's a great site called Loop-de-Loop, loopdeloop.org, which I think is a contest out of LA, and we use that as kind of a little exercise if we ever have students come and work with us. We usually give them a loop-de-loop, and they just pick every month. They pick a theme, and they say exactly like Fred did. It's like, do a little short, interesting animation, make it 10 frames long, make it, you know, do a bunch of them, do it quick, do it in one day. And that's good, because really that's the art of animation, is being able to draw whatever you're asked to draw as fast as you can.
Nice. Also, what resources do you know right now that, thanks to the internet or technology or whatever you call it, are available for many people independently of their countries, or to learn about becoming a better animators?
There's some good ones. There's like, I know for CG, there's iAnimate and Animation Mentor. And I'm sure like there's all sorts of like tutorials out there.
Even just looking stuff up on YouTube, checking out what's out there, experimenting.
Like I give a talk at our local, at Sheridan College, our local animation studio in Toronto. And the one of the things I always tell them is like, you don't need to go to school for animation. It's great to go to school because you'll meet people that'll get you a job later, like they'll recommend you. And that's really the reason to go. But if you just want to learn how to animate, you can do it just through YouTube.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's lots of great stuff on there. We're hoping to do some tutorials of our own in a little bit, but we haven't gotten around to it yet.
Awesome. Also, what is the mistake that you see that most people are making when they are starting out into the animation business?
For us, if we get demo reels in where they still have their student work on it, and I don't mean like their student film, but like walk cycles, bouncing balls, that sort of thing. So if they've been out of school for like a year and we still see that stuff on a demo reel, what I get from that is they graduated and then they stopped drawing and waited to get a job. So what I like to see is people who are just constantly animating, constantly trying to get their skills better and updating that demo reel over and over again. I'll also look at people's like blogs or Tumblrs or whatever when they apply and just see if they like enjoy drawing or if this is just, you know, a job for them. Because you can tell pretty quick on someone's Tumblr if they really like to draw, because it's updated constantly. And yeah, that's my number one. I mean, you hear that all the time from people. It's just like, just draw and draw and draw, because you just get better. You never get worse.
What about you, Lauder? Like, what is the mistake that you see?
think just like people getting into their own heads a little too quickly, getting a little too nervous about getting that first job right away, no matter what, and just kind of psyching themselves out. And I think like just talking to people, they get really kind of insecure. And I think the best thing is just talk to as many people as you can. Like try not to work yourself up too much.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just want to work with people that they enjoy working with. Like even as much as your skills are important, your social skills kind of come into play as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Also, what would be the recommendation for you for new animators about something that they should be focusing on doing, but many people are not doing?
I think one of the biggest problems with like animation school and starting out in general, and there might be some comments on this part, but it's the way I feel, is animation schools a lot of times now right away allow the animation students to design their own characters, which is great. But when you're starting out with, like, if you haven't animated before and you're just starting out, using characters like the old Mickey Mouse characters, like those little, just like they're just a circle and they've got the tube arms. Those are great for animation because you can rotate them easily. You can just get the sense of weight and the fundamentals of animation really easily. And you don't have to worry about a character you've designed who has 4 arms and he's got a cape and he's got inverse kinematics on his knees because he's half grasshopper, you know, because everybody wants to design the coolest character ever. And inevitably they're super difficult to animate. Like if you look at the Super Science Friends characters, they're really, most of them are just like little bean bodies and like long legs and noodly arms. And that's because we try to make it easier for ourselves when we go into animate.
Mm. People want to animate Sephiroth with all the bells and whistles and capes and hair.
Super detailed armor.
It's going to look so cool when he moves.
Yeah, and then it just looks like a travesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, like our first project, the first animated project was called Fafnir, and it was like a more realistic animation, and we didn't even have a Cintiq or anything like that. That was hell. After that, we simplify everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, on the professional side, what would be your recommendation? Because I think art is something that people will never be perfect at, like they will be always improving. So my recommendation for many is like to jump into the professional side as soon as possible. As Laurel say, like a lot of social dynamics apply more than skills most of the time. But what would be your advice on the professional side for people who want to get into the animation industry?
It's definitely, like you say, it's a social industry. So getting to know other animators, people that are in the industry. We're really fortunate in Canada because we have a community built around animation. I know there are certain countries that it literally is like a factory job, and there's no festivals, there's no schools, it's just a skill. So speaking from our point of view, it's really easy for us to say like, hey, go to an event, go to a festival, they're happening all the time, meet people, chat, go to life drawing, there's tons of life drawing classes. That's where you'll meet a lot of animators. That's really handy. So if you are lucky enough to be in a part of the world where you can do that stuff, don't sit at home on Friday night if there's a life drawing class going on. Go to it. Talk to people. That's really helpful because it's, for us, when we hire animators, it's usually not from a resume that gets sent in. It's usually we go to our existing crew and say, hey, do you guys know anyone? We're looking for 2 more people, and they'll recommend people for us.
Awesome. What about you, Laurel?
Yeah, pretty much that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I recommend this because I see a lot of people who are incredibly amazing when it comes to art, but they have no professional experience, and they always keep telling to themselves like, no, I need to get better, because if I get better, like then I will be able to get the job. And then I've seen portfolios of people who are in Disney. It's like, dude, you are already better than this guy, and he's already in Disney, so you're good enough. But people don't believe that usually. especially here. Well, as you say, there are some countries where it's like there is an animation community. There is others where it's like more like a fact. In our case here in Latin America, in many countries, like there's none. In our country, for example, we are the ones that are trying to impulse that, and we are like a group of 50 people. I don't know. So, what will be your advice for these guys who are like really afraid, who still don't have the experience? Obviously, they don't know much about the industry because they don't have it available for them. What will be your advice for them?
Keep talking to people, and there's like, even if you're in countries where like there's not the festivals and stuff going on, there's lots of communities online if you have access to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a couple of our crew did a project recently where it was, I think someone was splitting apart a Sailor Moon episode, and then it was like people from all over the world were able to animate one shot from the episode, and then they piled it together. Stuff like that is great. The loop-de-loop stuff I recommended earlier is great because it can just get you out there in front of eyeballs. My teacher, when I was in college, told me something interesting, and I've put it to use in the past. He said, if you're applying for a job or if someone asks you if you can do something, say yes, even if you can't.
And then learn it. And
then just stay up all night learning how to do it. And he said, most of the things that they're going to ask you to do, you can probably learn by staying up all night and figuring it out. And I've done that before, and it's it sucks because you don't sleep, but you end up learning how to do stuff.
Yeah, me too. Like, there was a friend of mine in the beginning where we started like getting a good quality internet, and she was applying for a job, and they were asking Flash animation back then, where it was the golden era of Flash. And we downloaded like a course of Flash, and she pretty much did that. Like, she had the interview 3 days from now on, and she pretty much didn't sleep, pushed through the course, and pretty much when she got the interview, all the questions and all the tests that they gave them, it was the same things that she just saw in the tutorials. It was like a lucky shot, but she was able to get that job.
That's
and
awesome.
People were like amazed because she didn't knew how to animate before, and it was like just 3 days of pure hustle, and she made it.
Yeah, most people, when they have to sink or swim, they'll generally swim.
Also, I wanted to ask you, like, imagine this scenario. Imagine that you wake up, pretty much nobody knows about you. You're in a different dimension or something like that, and you only have like $500 in your pocket. What will you do to start over again? And you have all the knowledge that you have already.
Oh man, that is a great question. What would you do?
I would get a part-time job and do what I can in my spare time, use that $500 for whatever basic art supplies I can get, and just slowly make your way, again, like a lot of the online stuff, just like starting a little Tumblr, whatever sketches you can do, post those up.
I would buy a sketchbook and a pencil, and I would go park myself in a coffee shop next to an animation studio, and I would draw my ass off all day long, like, visibly so people could see it, in hopes that someone from that studio would walk by and say like, hey, you can draw. That might be it.
I like your plan.
Definitely a good one. Also, any recommendations on your own that you would like to do to people listening to this show?
Just general life recommendations?
Yeah, if possible, on the professional side of animating.
I mean, one big thing I can point out is just learn something that's a standard software. So one of the recent years at Sheridan, one of the college near us, for some reason, everyone was using a software called Flipbook. And I think it's because it was really easy to use and it was great. And it was just like, you pick it up and go. But no studio uses Flipbook at all. Like, they usually use Toon Boom, Harmony, or Flash, or anime pro such as yourself, or if you're in Europe, then it tends to be TV Paint. So I would say like learn one of those. Just have it as in the wings, so you can say, yes, I know how to animate in that. Yeah. Also, learn how to edit. That's the thing I harp on a lot about, is editing is so easy now because of the software. Like it used to be you had to know all these codecs and crazy, you know, frame rates and things like that. Now the software just kind of takes care of it for you. So that's a skill that is always needed and will always make you valuable to a studio. If you can be like, yeah, I can edit this together for you. Don't worry about it.
Nice. Also, I wanted to ask you about what would be your recommendations to avoid burnout?
Avoid burning out?
Yeah, that's a really good one.
You don't.
Yeah. we used to have a lot of projects that kept us, like Super Science Friends kept us working on some very late nights. But on the other side of stuff at the studio, like we had a project 2 years ago now that nearly ended us. It was just like, it was 18-hour days for like 3 months straight. And that was really tough. And even after it was done, it took us a couple of months just to recover from it, like to get right. But if I think if there's crunch time, like try and keep it to a week here, a week there, if you can. I know that's not really possible sometimes on certain projects, just requires it. I have a friend who works at a video game company. He said their crunch time is like 6 months at a time, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Also, after Super Science Friends is done, do you have any idea for any new series?
Yes, we have a series that we're gonna do a comic book for first, and it's called Carnegie and Mortimer. And the idea is that it's a guy who has saved the world and the guy who he saved the world from, who are now living together in an apartment. So there's like the savior of the world and then the like super villain. They've both like had their battle and gone on with their lives, and now they're kind of an odd couple living together. So we're working out some rough ideas on that right now.
What do you do after you save the world?
Yeah.
Also, what is the future of Tinman? Like, are you going to keep doing commercial projects, or are you trying to go full into doing cartoon series?
We're definitely going to keep doing commercials, and just because at the very least, like it's a great break for the animators when you work on a series, especially Super Science Friends is different because it's only a couple episodes. But if we were on a proper 26 episode series, I mean, talking about burnout, that can, if you're doing the same thing every day for a year and a half, that's tough. So a commercial every once in a while that comes in gives people a break. They can work in a different style. They can work at a different pace. And it's...
makes a world of difference.
Yeah, it just helps. We do a drawing every Friday too called our Tin Draws, where we just pick a theme. And so this week's theme is X-Files because X-Files is back. Yay. And so everybody's just drawing like something from the X-Files. I drew the Smoking Man. People are going to draw Mulder and Scully, and then we post. And it takes like an hour out of the week, but it helps to just, kind of hit that refresh button.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add to this interview?
Just thank you for having us interview. Yeah.
Awesome. I truly hope that you get the Kickstarter. I'm already a backer, so I'm rooting for you guys. I truly want to see more episodes of Super Science Friends. So thanks a lot for giving us your time into this show.
Thank you. Can I say follow Super Science Friends on Facebook if you don't already?
Yes.
That's where everything happens. That's where we post everything.
Watch the show and all that.
Yeah.
You should try to post something up in Reddit as well in the animation section. There is a lot of activity there, and I think that there will be a lot of guys there who will truly like your show.
It's called Ready to Swell?
Yeah, Reddit.com/r/animation, and that's pretty much like the community of animators there. So.
Sweet. Yeah, there was a Reddit a little while ago on the first episode that someone was
That a fan made.
Yeah, that a fan made, and it was all about Darwin versus the Pope, and it was like huge, just thousands of comments. I was like, okay, cool. I don't understand Reddit, but I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, it takes a little while to understand it, and there is like since now Google owns it, like they have a lot of control there, so you cannot really spam a lot, or you're going to get banned. So try to keep like 2-3 posts per day, and maybe in different sections, and try to comment into other people as well. And like if you post one link, try to comment 3 times, and that is going to keep balancing things.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the advice. That we'll take whatever advice we can get for now.
Awesome. And thanks a lot again for giving us your time. I know that things must be crazy right now with the Kickstarter, so it means a lot to us that you have given us your time into and give us your knowledge here for this show.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so until next time.